Alright everyone, here's a video of a little Murray riding lawnmower that I converted to electric. It started life with a 15.5 horsepower Briggs & Stratton, and now I've put in an ME1008, I do believe, motor, 15 kilowatts peak with 5 kilowatts continuous, and a Ultrax 4824 controller, 48 volt system. When I'm just driving around as a tractor, it consumes about 1 kilowatt, and when I've engaged the blades, it's anywhere from 3 basically on up, just depending on how deep the grass is and how fast we're going. Typically around 3 or 4 kilowatts. With 2 Chevy Volt 48 volt modules, each of them are 2 kilowatt hours apiece. That gives me about 4 kilowatt hours, and that works out to roughly 80 amp hours. I charge the batteries up to 50 volts and discharge them down to 40. I'm not using any sort of BMS, at least not the BMS that came with the original batteries. These batteries, if you don't know, they consist of 12 sub-modules. Each of those sub-modules, I think, has 2 cells in it that are in parallel, and then all those are put together in series for 48 volts. No, that's not right. 24 volts. Each of these are 24 volts, and I've got these wired in series. Yeah, that's right. And yeah, so before I put this thing together, I measured all the individual module voltage individual module voltage, and they were all within like 0.003 or 5 volts of each other. They were super duper balanced. So I'm not too terribly worried about it. Lithium batteries typically don't drift either in use or in storage. I will keep an eye on it, and once the end of the mowing season is over, I'll pull that controller off and get those black covers off and go through and measure it again, just to be sure. If you know anything about lithium batteries, they've got a charge/discharge profile with basically has 2 knees on the end of it with a flat plateau in the middle. So when, let's say you're charging from new, you'll have a really steep ramp. The voltages will go up really fast, and then it'll hit that plateau, and then the voltage won't change very much, but energy will still go into the batteries. And then once you get to the second knee, again, the voltages will spike up, and that's where you run into a situation where you can overcharge your batteries pretty easily. That's pretty dangerous. That's how all the fires happen, basically. Likewise, when you're discharging, once it's fully charged, the first 5 minutes or less of you driving, the voltage will drop really fast, and then it'll sit on a plateau again, and until you hit that second knee where the voltage drops off dramatically. And that's where you run into a situation where you can run your weakest cell, or within the battery, down to 0 volts, and then once you've done that, you can't recover that cell. Then the problem is, if you don't know about that, you go to charge the battery up again, and you still have, I charged to 50 volts like I said, so you still got 50 volts going into this damaged battery, and those 4 volts that one cell would have taken now has to get divided across the rest of them. And if you have any particular cell in the battery that is close to its capacity, being storage capacity, you run into a situation where you can overcharge that cell, causing it to go into a thermal runaway, and you can possibly end up minimum of swollen cells. Worst case is a fire, and that's not good. I'm not using a BMS. I don't know. I keep a real close eye on the voltage when I'm driving, when I'm riding it. So I'm not going to allow it to get over discharged, and I've got a monitor, a voltage monitor, JLD 404. It has a relay in there, and it cuts off the charge when it gets to 50 volts, so that won't allow it to overcharge. So I've got some manual BMS on there. I'm just not interested in trying to make the factory BMS work. So it's a risk that I've decided to take, and that's my story. So as far as mounting goes, on this side, we got all the battery connections into the controller. There on the left is a shunt module that goes to the voltmeter that's on the dashboard. I'll show you that in a minute. And then to the right there is the just a throttle assembly, or it's a Hall effect sensor for the throttle. Battery mounting is pretty simple. On the front of that battery and on the top of this one, underneath there, is just I just welded a lip on there that the front of the battery slips underneath, and then to hold the back, that center bolt goes all the way through and secures the modules of the battery together and holds the back of the battery down. Likewise, in the front, I've got this angle iron going from the top all the way down. That holds the modules together and holds the front of the battery from bouncing around. Those struts right there, I got those when I was in the Air Force, and their original purpose was on the back of an airplane, but they were getting thrown away, so I didn't want them to get thrown away. So I basically carried them around with me for about 20 years, and now I finally found a use for them, which is kind of cool. I've got a MIG welder and a TIG welder in the shop. Typically I just use a MIG welder because it's so simple, but I really want to learn how to do a TIG weld. So that's what I used on all the brackets that I made for this conversion. The first welds that I did were these ones here, and they're not nearly as nice as the last welds that I did, which are on a receiver hitch that I've got on the back. So that's how things work. And yeah, that's about all there is over here. On the other side, this side, again, you got the motor, same, it's a mirrored mounting structure. And up there is a DC-DC converter. It's like just a cheapo Chinese one, again off of Amazon. I don't know if it's faulty. I mean, it works, it does charge, but it only charges up to about 12 volts even instead of 13. I've got a lead acid battery for the 12 volt system in the back. Right there is just a fuse, little 300 amp fuse. I'm thinking I might want to upgrade that to one of those Farage, one of those cylindrical ones, because I think there's a voltage drop across that fuse because it gets a little bit warm. Anyway, and down there is just the charging port. That's wired directly. The negative side goes up to the shunt, and then the positive side comes back around to right there on the left side of the fuse. That's how that works. And the JLD that I'm using, it takes a 12 volt input, and underneath the dashboard I put a little cigarette lighter. I didn't even know that I was going to be using the JLD for charging, so that cigarette lighter I just put for the heck of it. But as it turns out, it's pretty handy to have. And then the switch above that is for the light. The button above that is for the DC-DC converter. Little light comes on when it's on. And then up in the cockpit, this is that gauge that I was telling you about. This is just from off of Amazon. It's really kind of a cool little gauge. It's got all kinds of information on there. You can see it's got voltage on the top, amps, watts, and the three blue displays. Top one is for the amp hours consumed, watt hours consumed, and just a timer. So I charged to 50.26 volts, and I run it down. When it hits 40, that's when I shut the blades off and turn around and go back home to charge. And that turns out to be about an hour's worth of runtime and around 76.5 or so amp hours. So pretty pleased with that. On the side, just your standard gear levers. Put it in third when I'm mowing, fifth when I'm driving around. Over there is just the deck height. I'd put it on third, on the third level. Under here, just 12-volt battery where it was originally. Like I said, the DC-DC doesn't really charge as high as I would like it to, so I've just got an external 12-volt charger that I'll put on there every couple of uses, and I just got it plugged in right there. And in the back, just because I had it laying around, I decided to put a receiver hitch on there, and it's turned out to be pretty dang handy. So it's not just a receiver hitch. You take the pin out as normal, and then you got, you know, just the little hole there for, you know, your common garden implements that you might pull around the trailer or whatever. But the receiver hitch is kind of cool because I've got a, you know, like a big full-size ATV trailer that I can pull around my yard and not have to back the truck up to it. So that's kind of handy. I'm running mulching blades, so instead of buying the $60 plastic mulch plug, I just pulled out a spare piece of 18-gauge steel, a hammer, and made my own plug. The pulley was the most challenging part, not so much for me, but a friend of mine in Canada named Randy Lee, he made that for me. Just the adapter for the pulley. It's a pretty nice piece. Thank you, Randy. Yeah, and that works pretty good. So, that's kind of the tour. Yeah, so we'll close this up. I'll fire it up, and you can hear what a electric lawnmower sounds like. Now, key on. Now what I'll do is I'll just obviously drive up to the place. I'll have the throttle off. I don't really even use the clutch all that much. If I need to stop, I'll just turn the throttle off, and that's kind of the end of it. Yeah. So let's put it into third. I happen to have a patch of grass here that I missed the first time around, so we won't miss that again. We'll get that now. Put it in third. Engage the blades, and deck down to 3, and and away we go. So that's it. I figure since I've got you, your captive audience, I'm going to give you a tour of the little farm we got going on here. So over here is the greenhouse and the gardens. That's kind of cool. We're going to do some hay bale gardening. That's the backyard. Can't really see it, but down there is the mighty Buffalo River. Pan around this way. There's the house. Topsy-turvy tomato plant. Bird feeder. Chicken coop. Garage. Outdoor shower, if you're so inclined. Oh, here's another spot. And that's the driveway in, and the mighty Ranger, which I will videotape at another time. I just say videotape. I guess I just gave away my age. Anywho, so that's it. That's the tour of the electric Murray riding lawnmower. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you do your own. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Thank you.